Hello everybody, my name is Megan. You're watching Miss Megan Knits. Links to everything I talk about will be in the description box below, including where you can find me on Ravelry and where you can find my designs. The shawl I'm wearing right now is the Scania shawl by Caroline Weems. It's done in Knit Picks Capretta Superwash in a bunch of different purple colors. I talked about it in several of my previous episodes where I was actually working on it, so if you want to know more about that, then go check those episodes out. Also behind me, we have one of the first Afghans I ever made. It's heavy and huge because I use really jumbo yarn and I had no concept of gauge. It's a diagonal Afghan. You just start with 3 stitches and increase and then decrease. So that's kind of how I did it. The color changes are a little wonky. You can see this one's nice and smooth and then this one's not. I didn't know anything about right side, wrong side. This is one of my first projects, so. But I like to have it in the winter or in the fall when it's starting to become winter to snuggle up with on the chair. So that's just kind of where it's been living now. Anywho, how have you been? I've been a little crazy, just a smidge crazy. This season always does it to me. The fall into winter just throws me off balance a little bit, but everything's gonna be okay, so we're okay. Let's get right to it. So I like to start with FOs, and I have 2 FOs for you today, if I can find them. They were all the way in the kitchen. I left them on the kitchen counter when I was running downstairs and upstairs to grab the different things I needed for this video. I left them on the kitchen counter. My first one is one you'll recognize from many of my previous episodes. It took me a long time to work on it because I was working on other stuff in between. This was the reversible twist scarf. I'm going to show you this how that seemed. It was supposed to be my next design. It was supposed to be the next thing I published, but I'm not going to publish it because I'm not proud of it anymore. It's not my best work. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of gapping between, I guess there's not that much gapping. Yeah, there is. There's like a lot of laddering between some of my ribs. And I can't figure out how to make that go away. If it was as simple as, oh, give it a tug here or try a different tension here, then I would just include that in my pattern notes to make sure everybody could follow it, but I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. It might be just the nature of the twisty things and the purl stitches right next to them. But in any case, I'm not proud of it. I will not be publishing it just because it's not a good work of mine and I want my published patterns to be my best work. However, the cool thing about it is completely reversible and it was a 1-row repeat, so that was pretty fun. The yarn I used was Lion Brand Wool Spun. I found it at a thrift store. It's actually been discontinued, but you can basically do it with any yarn, any weight. This colorway is Periwinkle, and the composition of it is 80% acrylic, 20% wool, so it should be nice and warm, but machine washable like an acrylic, so that's what I really like about those. I was so frustrated with this scarf, I didn't want to continue it, and I was stressed from doing so many whips. And my mom's genius idea was, okay, you don't like the scarf, you don't want to finish the scarf, sew the ends together and make a cowl. So I just whip stitched it together because I was feeling angry and lazy at the time. And now it is a cowl. Nice and warm, nice and snuggly. Once you squish it up in a jacket, it'll be nice and toasty. And so now it's a cowl. Genius. I don't have to look at it anymore. The next finished object I have, I am much more proud of. This is an antler toque. Hat. It's a hat. An antler hat, because it has these antler cables running up it. So what this is a donation for my church's annual Holly Fair. They do like a craft fair and all the money raised goes to the church. The people in the church who are crafty make crafts and donate them. I made this hat. The pattern is antler hat, antler toque. The Ravelry listing says antler hat and then the pattern itself says antler toque. So I'm not toque. But I'm not sure which one to say. I'm going to say hat because I don't know how to pronounce the other word. It's a free pattern, which in Can Knits. The yarn I used was Lion Brand Heartland in the colorway Mammoth Cave. It's actually heathered. I don't know if you can see how heathered it is. But it's got a couple of strands mixed together. It's kind of shiny. It's really dimensional. It's 100% acrylic. It's really soft. Hopefully it'll be warm enough. I made an adult large size just because, I don't know, I figured that'd be more unisex. That way, you know, you could have a woman kind of can fold it up I have, you know, more of a one size hat, or you can fold it down and have more of a large man size hat. So that's what I was thinking. The needles I used were Knitter's Pride Bamboo DPNs, sizes 7 and 9. Same thing for the next HO I have. I liked this pattern. It was clear, it was concise, it was visually appealing. You know, looking at it didn't make me want to scream. All Tin Can Knits patterns I've tried have been like this. I really recommend them, especially for knitters who are not kind of new to this. One of my first few hats after I finished like a basic stockinette hat was this antler hat. I made one for myself, and I made the mittens for myself too. Even as a relatively new knitter, it was easy to follow, easy to understand. In fact, I believe this hat was like my second or third cabled project after some really simple cables. So, yeah, it's not that hard to follow. I picked it mainly for that reason. It'd be quick and easy. I messed up round 7 of the decreases. It was my fault and not the pattern's fault. I wasn't paying enough attention to the pattern. I was kind of on autopilot and did some of my cables wrong. So I improvised rounds 8 and 9 to kind of make up for my extra stitches and kind of, but I think it still looks fine. I don't think anybody will notice. The total time it took me to make this hat was 14 hours and 28 minutes, which is surprisingly long. Mainly because I was doing it while watching TV and while doing other things, so I wasn't like locked in a room fully concentrating on it, but still. My average mood for this hat was a 2.95, which is pretty smack dab in the middle because I'm on a scale of 1 to 5. My mood varied so much during this time of year. I worked on this hat when I was like super duper happy, and then I worked on it when I was like super duper low, and I just needed something to kind of perk me up. And I guess it averaged out to the middle, but it wasn't like a bunch of 3s. It was like both ends. The average difficulty I had was a 2.29, simply because cables aren't quite as easy as like stockinette stitch or garter stitch, but they're not too difficult to do, and they are much more fun to do than something simple like that. So they also look really professional. I really like them. They look really snazzy, and it's not that difficult to do. Along that same line, also for the Holly Fair, I have a HO, a hoe. This bag is a Nicole's Boutique bag I got last year, the year before. I keep a lot of projects in it because I really like it. Sorry about the chair squeaking if you can hear that. This is a fairly new chair and it's kind of squeaky. This is my HO. Antler Mitten by Tin Can Knits. Now this pattern was not free. I paid for it. It was about $5. I did buy it a while ago to make this pattern for myself. So I'm glad to get to use it again, because when you buy a pattern, I think you can use it as many times as you want. And I think if you pay for something, you should get your use out of it. You should make it as many times as you can before you go insane, making the same pattern over and over again. But this is fun. It was a while ago that I made it the first time, so I got a nice break. The yarn is the same yarn, so I'm not going to go over all that again. I will note, I got 2 different dye lots when I bought the 2 skeins on accident. My local Michael's, I'm not shopping for yarn there anymore, because there's an AC Moore like right across the street, so I'm going to go to AC Moore from now on, because I'm not impressed with Michael's yarn selection. The things were tangled, labels were missing, it was just a mess. So I ended up not getting the same dye lot, but I was able to finish the whole hat with 1 dye lot, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish the whole mittens with 1 dye lot. So as long as you're not like doing this, no one will know. No one will ever know. This is not a Godzilla mitten. You can see my hand compared to it. It looks really big, really big. I just have really small hands, so it's not really big. I tried it on my dad. He put it on just to make sure that like it would fit, you know, an adult man, and it does. It fits him really well, actually. So I know that it will fit somebody, you know, a larger man maybe, but somebody. So that's good. This was slightly more tricky than the hat just because there are more things going on at once. You have to maintain the cable, and they introduced it to you in pieces. You know, you start with the rib, and then they give you the cuff, which is just the cable and the stockinette on the back. And then they introduced the thumb gusset, and you have to do the thumb gusset while you're doing the cables, which is a little bit tricky to keep track of multiple things at once, but I managed. I did okay. I did okay even as a younger knitter back when I made it the first time, so, you know, it'll be good. And then the top decreases are a little bit difficult because they want to maintain the antler cable. They look great, but it's kind of difficult to do all of the different steps. Those aren't charted, those are written, and I do better with charted instructions, so I had a little bit of hard time with that. It's worth noting, for the antler hat, the pattern for the cables is both written and charted. For the mittens, the cable pattern is only charted and the decrease pattern is only written. So if you cannot read charts, this would be a good pattern to learn. It's a fairly simple chart, but it is only charted. So if you're really, really against charts, then this might not be the pattern for you. Total time it took me was 7 hours and 40 minutes to make this one mitten. My average mood is 2.88, which is still kind of in the middle, but lower than the hat, because this time of year I just get low. It's just depressing, but I live in the New England, so the light just gets dimmer and the sun is just not as bright and everything is gloomy, and we've had days of clouds and rain, and I mean, it's sunny now. You can see out that's a closed blind right there, and the sun's still coming through. So it's sunny now, but it's been miserable, and just that brings your mood down, you know, it just makes you sad. So I rated my average difficulty 3.25, again, trickier than the hat for keeping track of multiple things, but the pattern helps you out, so it's not that bad. And then I might as well get to my whips, because this is the only HO I have. And my first whip I cast on this morning is the second mitten. So here it is. I've got about one repeat of the chart going. It looks like a V. It's so cute. And yeah, that's what I've been working on this morning, in addition to my Plurn mat. I want to talk about my Plurn mat. It is so close to being done. I can't show it because it's huge. It's over 6 feet tall. So I'm not going to try and drag it out here. You're not going to be able to see it. It's not going to work. It's going to be rustly. But I finished the main body of it, and now I just need to put a border and straps. And I'm thinking of doing a brown border, but I don't have enough brown plastic bags. But the local grocery store near me does brown plastic bags, so I might have to go shopping. For groceries, it'll be good shopping, healthy shopping. My next whip is Percy the Platypus, which I am making in the colors of Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb, because that's just my generation. I didn't work on this one a ton this week. I've been working on the other things, especially the hat and mittens have been like my main focus. So most of what else you're going to see is not my main focus. So not very much has been done on it. Percy the Platypus is from the book Cuddly Animals to Crochet, 28 Cute Toys to Make and Love by Lucia Forthman. And I'm going to show you the picture. Notice the contoured body. We went over this last week. Without the various pieces, it looks a little inappropriate, so I'm not going to show that again. It's teal, like Perry the Platypus is. For my hook, I'm using a 2.5 millimeter hook from the Knit Picks Bright Crochet Hook Set. It's the yellow one. 2.5 millimeter. It doesn't have the US sizing on it. I know with my crochet hooks, I'm going to go back and forth in this episode between US sizes and metric sizes, just because some hooks have the US size and not the metric size, some have the metric and not the US, so it's just really complicated, and I'm just going to go with whatever I can get my hands on for a measurement quickly. In this case, metric, 2.5 millimeters. The progress I made this week was I made the beak. She calls it a beak. Some would say it's a bill, like a duck bill. But I made the bill, and I'm working on 1 foot, so I will show those to you. So here is the finished bill. I think I had started it last time, and now it is finished. I really like the adding of the double crochets here to make it kind of pop out at the top, kind of like a real bill. Quack, quack. I don't know what sound platypuses make. Quack, quack. Ducks make quack, quack sounds, so that's what I'm going with. But there it is. And then for the foot is really cute because they have toes. check them out. So this is going to be decreased and then go into a leg, but right now it's just the widest part of the foot. The toes are actually done individually, so you make a little magic ring and you crochet up the toe, and then you do the second one, and then you do the third one, and then you crochet across all of them on the front and the back to connect them together, and then you just start working in rounds like that, which is a lot of work for a toe, but look at the result. It's so cute. It's got little toe beads, little feet. So cute. So that's what I'm working on. I've got to make 4 of these. The back legs are different than the front legs, but they start the same way with the same toes. So 4 of these will be made. And then, this yarn that I'm showing you is Caron 1 pound in Sunflower. The other yarns I'm using, for the body, I'm using Caron 1 pound in Teal. For the tail is Nicole Studio Classic in the shade Deep Brown. Or Nicole Studio Classic Plus, sorry, it comes in 400 gram skeins instead of 200 gram skeins, that's the only difference. And the eyes, I'm using Barocco Levitt for the black, and I'm using Right Hair Super Saver in soft white. I think I'm going to make the eyes differently than the eyes in the pattern, so they look more like, kind of like the googly eyes that Perry the Platypus has, but I'm not sure yet. Also, it's been suggested to me that I should make a hat, kind of like Perry the Platypus has the Agent P hat, but I'm not exactly sure how to make a hat like that without a pattern, so I might have to scour the internet for a pattern of some kind and hope it works to be the right size. I'm not exactly sure how to do this, but maybe the hat will happen, maybe the hat will not happen. Okay, I have 2 more whips to introduce to you, and both of them came from the same need. Basically, I am going to go on a church retreat, church women's group retreat with my church family, and according to one of the leaders of the retreat, there's going to be a lot of downtime. And they say, bring something to do. Bring, playing cards or a board game. If you like to read, bring a book. And then she looked at me and she said, you like to knit. Bring your knitting. So I said, okay. But then I was thinking about the whips that I had previously shown. And none of them are really good, relaxing, chatting with the ladies kind of knits. Some would call them like a knitting group knit. Something you can do easily while you're talking to other people and socializing. I didn't want to be like isolated in my own little world, counting for decreases like on the platypus, or trying to keep track of charts or anything like on the mitten or anything like that. So I came up with 2 projects that I started just so I could get the hard part starting out of the way. And then I have 2 projects to work on during the retreat. So the first one, well, the second one I started, but the first one we're going to talk about is my birthday socks. I got this yarn for my birthday. If you watch my birthday haul video, you will see this yarn. Premier Wool Free Sock in the colorway Vegas Lights. It's a self-striping yarn, kind of with some Fair Isle, faux Fair Isle in it. It's a really cute yarn worked up. It's 93% acrylic, 7% PBT, which I imagine is like a nylon, kind of. I had planned with this yarn to do the vanilla latte sock pattern, but since I'm going on the retreats and I wanted something simple to bring with me that could last me the whole weekend, I decided to go with my go-to vanilla sock pattern, which is My First Toe Up Socks by Susan B. Anderson, but I modified it to, instead of having an afterthought heel done with waste yarn, to have a true afterthought heel that's a cut-in afterthought heel. This pattern I got from the blueprint class, My First Toe Up Socks, so I'll link that. But you can also just get the pattern on Ravelry. It's a really good step-by-step walkthrough for doing toe-up socks. It talks about G's Magic Cast On. It talks about everything you need to know. It talks about everything. I don't even need the pattern anymore because I made this sock twice as written and then once with a modification to include a lace pattern for my mom. So I know this sock pattern by now. I made this size small for my feet with fingering weight yarn because it includes instructions for worsted and fingering. I chose fingering weight yarn. Needles. I have forever known that when I swatch with size 2 needles and fingering weight yarn, I get a gauge of 8 stitches per inch. A lot of knitters know what their sock gauge is with the sock needles so that you don't have to swatch every time. However, I realized as I was getting my needles out that the needles I've been using for socks for the past 5 pairs of socks I've knit have actually been in between a US 1 and a US 2. I would call them a US 1.5, but I don't know if that's a thing. That's what they are, basically. They're halfway between a US 1 and a US 2. And I know those are the needles I've been using because the numbering has been worn off of them, but when I use the needle gauge, that's how I know what size they are. I was so torn because I was like, I'm going to get gauge on size 2s, but I've been using 1.5s. I decided to go with the 1.5s because it's worked out for me on 3 pairs of socks so far, so why would I change it? Even if I'm not getting gauge, I'm getting the right size sock because the socks fit, so that's what I'm doing. These are the Knitter's Pride Carbons, DPNs. Here we have the beginnings of my toe. Pull this away. It's just the start of a toe. I want to do the Gigi's Magic cast on because it's a little fiddly on DPNs, or a lot fiddly on DPNs, but I did it. So I started it before my retreat. That way for the retreat I can just finish increasing the toe and start doing the plain rounds around, and I won't get to the top in one weekend. Oh, the dog just entered the room, so if you hear noises, I apologize. She's looking at me accusatory, like, how dare you say I make noises. My last whip is also for the retreat. It is a crochet whip. I'm making a scarf, and I will show you that scarf right now. So here's the scarf. It's being made the long way, obviously. This is the Scrapadelic scarf. It's a free pattern from Elizabeth Pardue, found on her blog Crochet in Color, but you can also find it on Ravelry, which is where I will link to. I'm using a G-hook. The yarn I'm using, I have scraps. These scraps are Caron Simply Soft, navy blue and red. I inherited the red. The navy blue is left over from Honey Bear's hat, which you have seen in previous episodes. These are Lion Brand Feels Like Butter. These are leftovers from my first design, which was a cowl. So I used this gray to swatch. The gray doesn't appear in the cowl. I used it for swatches and stuff. And these 2 colors are leftovers from the cowl. So this is my color palette. It's kind of a masculine color palette. I don't know what I'm going to do with this scarf. It doesn't have a recipient or anything yet, so I'm just making it for the fun of making it, for the relaxation of making it. It's a very simple scarf, so I can do it while talking to the ladies or hanging out or, you know, whatever. I am using, I brought 2 hooks in case I lose one, a G-hook, 4.0 millimeter G-hook. I knew both measurements that time because I have 2 hooks. So I took some libers for this pattern. For the first thing, when I made my chain, I didn't count my chains. I just measured my wingspan. Close to my wingspan. A little longer than my wingspan. That's my go-to for scarves. Scarves being a wingspan is just standard, and it's easy to measure, and you don't have to count. So I just chained until it was my wingspan. I skipped the rows of single crochet in the beginning and the end and went straight to half double crochet. More of an accident than anything, but it's turning out just fine. So colors change every row, which makes it a great scrap buster. So even if you have little tiny scraps, you can just do 1 row, you know. You can see here I have, the chair's creaking again. I have the red that I chained with, I have blue, and then I have teal. And I don't necessarily love the look of blue and teal next to each other. It's growing on me. But my boyfriend was talking to me when I was chaining it. We were FaceTiming, and I told him what colors I had, and he said, well, you gotta put the blue and teal next to each other. So I did for the stripe, and I'm liking it so far, I guess. But the Caron Simply Soft is acrylic, and the Feels Like Butter is polyester. They're both machine washable. So I did it on purpose. I wanted all the yarns to be machine washable when I picked them. That's my scarf. It's not much of anything yet. And you leave tails at the end. The beauty of it is you don't have to weave in all these ends. With a lot of scrap projects, it's like you have to weave in so many ends. With this, you just cut them all to be the same length, and it's fringe. Built-in fringe. So that's pretty cool. I did a scarf knitted called the Snippet Scarf. I'll link that pattern too, if I can remember to link. And it's basically the same thing, only knitted. It's a knitted garter stitch, and you change colors every row. So if you're a knitter and not a crocheter, same idea. So thank you so much for watching my video, spending this time with me. I know it's a little shorter than usual, but I've been working on like that hat and mittens almost monogamously, so I don't have much else to show besides those. Sorry. Hopefully when I come back in 2 weeks or so, I will have much more to talk about. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And yeah, check out some of my other videos if you haven't seen them. They're cool, I guess. I like them. I made them. I'm proud of them. So anyway, my name is Megan. You were watching Miss Megan Knits. Again, links below. Have a wonderful day.